Okay, right. So are we okay, guys? How is Unit 1 now? Unit 1 fine? Yes, any questions? Are we good to go, Unit 1? Why is my video on? Because someone asked me to on it last week. I said I'll on it this week. Yeah. Okay, so we're done with unit number 1. Right now, what we'll have to do is unit 2. Right. So I'm doing unit 2 and 3 together. Right. That is demand, supply, elasticity, let's say what taxes, subsidies, price flows, price ceilings, right? All of that I'm doing it together, right? Now this is the first class. So first class we usually go slow because I teach the theory behind each question, right? I teach you the logic behind it and then I go on. So after that, once the questions get repeated, right, I will not be, explaining it over and over again. Same style that we followed in unit number 1. Okay, just want to check with you all. How many of you all did the MCQs and came unit 2? Yes, I told this, long time back. Done? Yes, if you all have done, can you all just send me? I can, at least see how many of you all have done it. Yes. No, not done. Okay, I wanted a poll, but there is no poll. No, I want to get a poll sorted. Where is my poll? Okay, no, the poll is not there because I was not there. Okay, right. So I think most of you all have done, right? So nice to see most of you all doing it, right? So we'll start discussing today, right? We'll do all of these papers. I'm looking at, let's say, around 4 to 5 sessions, right? Within 4 to 5 sessions, we'll be able to finish this. So, and one more thing, guys, we will start having extra classes. Good thing or bad thing, right? Extra classes will be not every week, but on certain Sundays, like we had last week. Yes, on certain Sundays, right? Not every Sunday, certain Sundays from 7 to 9 p.m. Right? So extra classes will happen. This is because I have to find, this is the time that, the Zoom account is free as well. This is not my Zoom account. This is a Zoom account I'm getting from another institute. So I have to check what time that is free. So that is free on Sunday nights. So I have to go with that time. So there is no way I can change this. Revision class students, you all will get the recording even if you all miss. Others somehow try to make it, right? That is just a small request there. Okay, anything else before we start, before I actually start teaching? Anything that you all want to clarify? Anything? Yes, I'll give you all, it's 5, 6. I'll give you all time till, let's say, 5:10 to clarify whatever that you all want to. Yes, any questions? No? Anyone? Questions? Anything? Are we okay? How are the leaders doing? Yes, our knowledge sharing leaders. Are you all doing good? Yes, how is the questions and, okay, one more thing, guys, to the team members, right? Because I don't get to talk to them much. I talk to the leaders at times. So for the, you know, guys in the teams, right? So one thing, right? You're only making 2 MCQs, right? It's a very easy task. For 2 weeks, you get 2 weeks time just to make 2 MCQs, right? So what I want you all to do is make the question as hard as possible. Don't make it easy, right? Just the small advice, because harder it is, the better you all would learn, right? So you are just making 2 MCQs, make it as hard as possible, right? Okay, so good to see that you all are, really involved in it. So guys, just one more advice: once you all make a question, please check before you send the question to your leader, before you send your 2 MCQs, and also maybe if you're part of a essay question, right? So recheck the grammar, recheck if the answer is right, and then give it to the leader. Because for the leader to check 20 MCQs is hard. For me to check, 17 into 20 is even more hard, right? Now, this time it takes time to send the papers because, I have to correct a lot of things. I have to change the answers. Some answers I put my own answers, right? So even your answers, try to give in very descriptive, proper answers that is there. Yes, you all should send it. Okay, batch 2, guys, I will coordinate with you all and I'll see what exactly I can do with you all. But for batch 1, this is what you all have to do. I'll coordinate with batch 2. Okay, that will sort out. Don't worry, the question papers everyone would get if you contribute. Okay, so far I think you all have been doing a marvelous job, right? I've gone through the papers. It's really, really of good standard. So I'm hoping you all are doing the papers also. Anyone did at least until the paper that I sent yesterday? All done? I think I sent paper 6 yesterday. All done? Anyone? No? Okay, there is one person. Wow. 2, 3, 4. Wow. Okay, so done till, okay, there's a lot of people. So that's really good to hear. Good to see that, okay, okay, so nice to see that most of you all are actually doing the papers, right? So we're looking at a lot of papers. So guys, this paper should have unit number 2 and 3 both, Hari. So 2 and 3, they can make a 20 MCQ paper. Same paper as last time. Paper is not going to increase in size. The size is going to be the same. Make it the same size, but include both 2 and 3. So everyone, when you're making questions, when you're making your 2 MCQs, make one from unit 2, one from unit 3. Maybe that way, right? So you try to equally spread it out between 2 and 3 and make the hardest questions. If you can make more questions and maybe the leader, right, you can finally decide, what are the best questions that we have to put and give a tough paper, right? Don't give an easy paper, right? And also try to not copy from other teachers, please, right? If you look at another teacher's paper, it's fine, but change the question. Don't give the exact thing because it's not nice, right? The teacher would have spent a lot of time making that question, and then if you copy it and give it, it's not nice, right? So change it a little bit, right? As long as you learn, it's perfectly fine. Okay, so that's it with that. Okay, perfect to go. Okay, one more thing before we start. Revision class students, right? Those who are willing to join, right? I don't know, there's a few people who filled, right? We are sending the tutes tonight or maybe early morning tomorrow, so you can get the tute by Saturday, right? If you have filled the form that you're interested to join, if you have not yet paid, right? If you definitely are joining, drop me a text. We will send the tute so you have it on Saturday. I understand the weather is there, then there is corona and curfews and you all can't go out to pay. In case that is the situation, let me know, right? We will add you to the group. We will make you join the class. We will send you the tute. You can take some time and pay the fees, no problem. But for sure, if you're joining only, right? Just a small thing there. Okay, so are you all done seeing me? Yes, not a pretty sight, but can't help. Yes, done. Shape. Anyone wants to keep on looking at me more? No, right? Are we okay? I know we have bad internet today. Even my internet is a little uh, bad with the weather and all of that. So I'll have my video off, right? And you all have data issues as well. So I think most of you all are with Zoom packages. So if you all have this, try to activate a Zoom package. It saves a lot of data. So even I have one. Just to let you all know that. So yes, that's that. No questions, right? Any questions before we actually start learning? Yes. Check. No one? No? Okay. Right. 2011. Right? Okay. We have 201 people apart from me. Am I partnered with Syntax? No, I'm not partnered with Syntax. I got this Zoom account with Syntax. I might partner with Syntax in the future, but not right now. Right now, they're only giving me the Zoom account because we needed a Zoom account to have more than 500 to 100 people. So they had a Zoom account, so I paid an amount to them, a very reasonable amount. They gave it to me a very reasonable rate, right? So good on them, right? I really appreciate what they did to me. So we have a Zoom account, right? Okay, 2011 A levels. This question now, the first few questions from unit number 1. I think I missed these questions last time. Yes, so these unit number 1 basic questions we can do it. I wanted to have a poll. I actually don't have the poll. No, like a small thing that would come up on your screen. Okay, that's okay. Right, so what I want you all to do, I'm hoping you have done the papers, right? So when I go through the question, give in the answer that you have as well, right? So I know based on the answers that you all give, I know whether I should explain this in detail or not. Because if most of you all give me the correct answer, then I know I don't have to explain this much. Okay, so when I read the question, please give your answers, right? Don't just sit like a plum pudding looking at a screen or staring at your phone. Get engaged, have a past paper book opened, have a CR book, right? So I'm hoping you all are doing all these questions in a CR book, right? Question and the answer, writing the answer, not the entire question down, writing the answer number, writing whatever explanation that I give. Don't touch your past paper book. Keep your past paper book brand new. Maybe 2 months down to A levels, we'll do that then, right? Because if you mark in your past paper book, you can't do the past papers again, right? So telling you all once again. Right. Okay, platform looks much easier. No, I don't know about y'all, but for me it looks much easier with no, In GoToMeeting, we had so much of different things. Okay, nice. We'll start with this. 2011. Okay. When price mechanism is used to allocate resources, market prices, what happens? Market prices must rise, are usually regulated by the central government, solely determined by the production costs, do not respond to changes in demand. This thing, right? Now, I'm not explaining this because this comes from unit number 1, right? So, one thing, right? What does market prices do? What is a feature of market prices? Market prices, remember, it has three things that it does. It provides signals, it's an incentive, and also it rations. So they're talking about this number 5, right? Market prices. In price mechanism, according to price mechanism, it gives you signals. For example, if the price is high, it gives the signal to the, let's say, supplier, you can earn more profit, let's go get it done. Let's say if the price is low, it gives a signal to, let's say, the buyer, okay, price is low, maybe it's a good chance for you to go and buy. So it gives you signals, right? That is number 5. Question number 8, right? Not done this before. Okay, again another question, because I did not discuss this in unit number 1. Unit 1 question. One of the main functions of prices in a market economy: allocate scarce resources, provide this thing, this thing, this thing. What are the 3 functions of price? Number 1, the signaling or informative, right? Informative. Number 2, I know you all are tired of listening to this, the incentive function. Number 3 is the rationing, or in other words, the allocative function. So these are the 3 functions. So which one of this is there in this question? In this question, one of the main functions of prices in the market economy is number 1, allocate scarce resources. So answer there, number 1. Okay, we are done with that part, right? So we'll actually move on to the unit 2 MCQs. Finally, a unit 2 one. What we are supposed to do today. So I want answers from most of y'all, right? So I know y'all have understood it, right? Okay. Question number 10. A shift of the demand curve for a particular product to the right could be caused by demand curve shifting to the right. Why does the demand curve shift to the right? Demand curve shift in the right tells us what? Demand, okay, an increase in demand. Increase in demand. When there is an increase in demand, demand shifts to the right, right? The curve shifts to the right. So this is when any non-price determinant, let's say consumer income, price of substitutes, price of complements, consumer taste, things like that. When something like this changes favorably, the demand can shift to the right. You look at number 1, a fall in the price of a closed substitute. If a closed substitute's price fall, what do you think happens? There is a demand curve, right? I had a request to draw diagrams better, right? Okay. There is a demand curve. If the price of a substitute falls, what happens? Let's say there is Anchor and Ratti. Let's say you're talking about the demand for Anchor, right? Let's say Ratti, who is the close substitute, price of Ratti falls. Now, what do? People go and buy more Ratti, They will quit your product and they will buy more Ratti. So, if the price of a substitute falls, what happens? The demand for yours also would fall. It would shift to the left. It's a leftward shift. This is number 1. Number 2, a fall in the price of the good itself. When the price of the good falls, what happens? Does the demand curve shift? When the price of the good falls, let's say this was the price, this was the quantity. If the price of the good fell, what would happen? You would go from this point to this point. Price falls, quantity increases. Does the curve shift? No, curve will not shift. Number 3, a rise in income. That is the answer, right? So when you have a rise in income, right, if your income rises, now you're able to buy more goods, right? So as a result, the demand curve would shift to the right. Demand would increase. So that is the answer, number 3. Okay, you look at number 4 and 5, right? So number 4, rise in the price of a complementary good. What are complementary goods? Goods that can be consumed together, right? Let's say shoes and socks. Let's say cars and petrol, right? So let's say your product is socks. Let's say if the price of shoes, which is the complementary good, if that increases, what happens to your demand for socks? People will not buy shoes. If shoes are expensive, they will not buy socks also. So the demand would fall, right? So it would decrease, not number 4 as well. Number 5, rise in the cost of production. When there is a rise in the cost of production, it is not the demand curve, it is the supply curve that would shift to the left. The supply curve would only shift to the left, not the demand curve. So the question is asking a shift of the demand curve, right? Which one of this would cause the demand curve to shift to the right? So the answer number 3, easy question, right? Took some time because it's a very basic. Okay, moving on to the next question, the easiest question ever. Which of the following is not held constant when a demand curve is drawn? When a demand curve is drawn, what is not held constant? What do you all think? What is not held constant is the price of the good. Because when you draw the demand curve, right? When you draw, let's say, a demand curve like this, right? What are the two axes? And now it's hard to draw. This is the price axis. This is the quantity axis. So when you draw a demand curve, you are assuming all other factors are held constant while the price can change. You know, these can change. But the moment any other factor, let's say consumers' income, consumer taste, price of substitute, you know, when those change, the demand curve will shift. So when you draw a demand curve, we assume others are all constant, because otherwise you can't draw a demand curve. It would keep on going, increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing, right? So you assume all those are constant and only the price changes. Another thing, you draw a demand curve to represent the law of demand. What is the law of demand saying? There is a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded, while other factors are held constant. Other factors are constant, only the price is changed. Easy as that. The answer number 3, price of the good itself. Okay, coming to the next one. Okay, now this is a little of a question that you have to think. Okay, let's try to figure this out. The question says, the demand for a particular normal good is inversely related to price. That means when price increase, the demand will fall. And supply is positively related. That is okay. If price increase, supply will also increase. During a given time period, okay, 5,000 units are sold at a price of 50 a unit. And during the latter period, 8,000 units are sold at a price of 60. Now, can you see, when the price was 50, quantity is 5,000. When the price increased, the quantity also has increased. Now, how can that happen? When the price increase, usually quantity demand should fall, no? Right? But what has happened here? Some other factor has changed. So how can you answer a question like this? To answer a question like this, let's roughly draw a demand and supply curve and see. Right? We'll draw a demand curve. Let's say this was the demand curve. Right? Let's say this was the demand curve. Okay. Okay. We'll draw a demand and supply curve, both demand. Okay. Hard to draw. Okay. Demand. Let's say this is the supply. Based on this, right? Let's say according to this diagram, right? Let's say the price earlier was 5,050 rupees, quantity 5,000. Okay. This is what it was. So I'll mark this, right? This is 50 rupees, price 50, quantity 5,000. Now they are saying, right, if you read the question, right, I'm hoping you all have done the question and come. The question says, in a latter period, when the price was 60, right, when the price was 60, right, so let's try to figure out a price 60. So it will be somewhere here, right, price 60, right, and the quantity was 8,000 units. So this is, if this is 5,000, where is 8,000? 8,000 must be, somewhere here, this range. So they are now at equilibrium at somewhere around here. So how did this happen? How can that happen? What do you think should increase or decrease? Now, for you to have equilibrium at this point, right, that I marked here, to have 60 units and 8,000, what do you think should happen? They all understand that part? No? Yes, 60. Now they're saying in the latter part it is 60 and it is 8,000. So to get to that point, what do you think should have happened? From this point, now earlier you were at equilibrium at this point, now you want to get to equilibrium at this point. How can this happen? Exactly, one way of this happening is if the demand has increased, right? If the demand increases, you would go here, no, you would have a new demand curve, right? So I know it's not a very proper diagram, right? Okay, so okay, I'll make my diagram better. Okay, right? I think it would make more sense then. So if you look at this, right, how can you go into an equilibrium like that? What should happen? Your demand has to increase. If your demand curve shifted to the right, right, if your demand has shifted to the right, then you would go into this situation, no? Price 60, quantity 8,000. It is a possibility. So according to these questions, according to the answers that they have given you, which of these answers show you one of these possible situations? Now, if you look at number one, increase in the price of complement. If the price of a complement increases, your demand would fall. You would go into somewhere like this. Can you come to that point? No, number one can't. Number two, increase in the price of substitute. If the price of substitute increases, yes, your demand will also increase. Why? People will give up the substitute and now they will start coming and buying your product because the substitute is expensive. So your demand can increase. So your demand can, go there. So because of that, right, it can come there. So that can be the answer. Let's look at number three also. I'll draw the others in, let's say, purple. Number three, imposition of a sales tax. If you're on a sales tax, what would happen? The price, the supply would shift to the left. So supply would shift to the left. Then what would happen? Yes, the price can increase, but the quantity will fall. No, here the price also has increased, quantity also has increased. So not that. Number four, increase in the productivity. If the productivity increases, supply would increase. If the supply increases, price will actually fall. So has the price fallen? No, price has increased from 50 to 60. So not that as well, right? And then the last one, increase in the cost of raw materials. If the cost of raw materials increase, what happens? Supply would fall again. So again, you can't meet that situation. So the only way you can meet this situation of 60 and 800 is if the price of substitute increases. So that's a good question that you all can. So maybe a question like this, when you're making your own questions, you can turn these numbers a little. You can turn these numbers a little, turn the answers a little, and try to make a nice question. So these are good questions that you all can actually make use of when making your papers. Did you all understand this? Yes. The answer is number two. Yeah, you can draw it and figure it out very easily. Yeah, fine. Then let's move on to the next question. Okay, price elasticity of demand of a firm. Price or demand for a manufactured firm, for a product manufactured by a firm is minus 0.8. If the firm raises the price of the product, its revenue will rise, fall, stay same, dot, 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 dot. Okay, my thing here, from the 212 out of y'all, do you all know the relationship between price, elasticity of demand, and total revenue? If it is elastic, this is what happens. If it is inelastic, this is what happens. Do you all know that? Do you all know that properly? Yes, no. Now, what? Revision class students, I'm hoping you all do know. I've done this enough and more times with you all. Yes. Okay. Okay, right. So this is a very important area, right? So I want you all to, I will not explain this again. I'll explain this in this question. I'll explain more than what is needed in this question. I want you all to properly understand this and use this knowledge in the other papers to come, right? So we are going to talk about a very important area, that is price elasticity of demand and the relationship with total revenue and consumer expenditure, right? This is what we are going to Look at revision class students, I'm very sorry if this is very boring to you, right? I'm hoping you all are experts on this, right? But do listen. I think there's something that you all can definitely learn out of it. Okay. So first of all, I want you all to let you all know, right, that consumer expenditure and total revenue of a producer revenue, that is total revenue, consumers expenditure. I want you to give in full focus here. It's a definite MCQ that they asked, right? It's a very important area, right? Consumer expenditure, that is what the consumer spends. Producer revenue, that is what the producer earns, is the same when there is no taxes, subsidies, or any of that. Let's say I go and spend 1,000 rupees, right? My consumer expenditure is 1,000. What is the money the producer is getting? He is also getting 1,000. So consumer expenditure and producer revenue are the same concept. So consumer expenditure is also equal to total revenue. In other words, producers revenue. That is one thing that you all have to know. Both are the same concept. Then now tell me, let's say I'm buying tennis balls. Let's say I'm playing cricket in the evening, right? I go to the shop, I buy 5 tennis balls. One ball is 100 rupees. How much am I spending? What is my consumer expenditure? I'm going to the shop, buying 5 tennis balls, one at 100. Exactly, it is 500. How much is the producer getting? The producer is also getting 500, right? I am spending 500, producer is also getting 500. If that is the case, how would you calculate consumer expenditure or total revenue? How did you all get this 500? All of you all gave me answers at 500. How did we get this? We multiplied the price of a tennis ball, that is 100. We multiplied it by what is the quantity I am buying, price into quantity. So this is the equation to find consumer expenditure or total revenue, or in other words, producers revenue, right? So far, are we okay? Yes, very basic concepts. Okay, then I'll come into this part now. Okay, when you have inelastic demand, what is inelastic demand? What is elastic? What is inelastic? Now, if you look at a rubber band, right, a basic rubber band, why do we call a rubber band elastic? Because you can change the size of it. Because the rubber band, you can, you can pull it, you can make it big or small. So elastic means can change. Inelastic means does not change much. Same thing. Inelastic demand, elastic demand. What does elastic demand means? Elastic demand means if the price changes, quantity demand will change by a greater proportion. If price changes a little, quantity demand will change by a lot. Elastic. It changes, right? So that is what elastic means. If price changes, QD changes by a lot. What is inelastic? When price changes, quantity demanded doesn't change much. Inelastic, can't change, right? That is what elastic and inelastic means. So inelastic demand. Now we are going to look at in a situation of inelastic demand. Okay, can someone tell me when demand is inelastic, what will the value range between the price last year demand value? The answer, the coefficient will range between what and what? It would be between the PED will be greater than, it would be greater than 0 and less than 1, right? So greater than 0, less than 1. So it can be anything, 0 0.5, 0 0.6, 0 0.11, 0 0.2, 0 0.99. It can be anything. So according to this question, can you all tell me, right? They've given 0 0.8. Is it elastic or inelastic? Does it fall under this criteria? Is it between 0 and 1? Yes. Yeah, exactly. It is inelastic, right? 0 0.8 inelastic. But I'll explain the other side of this as well. I'll explain everything because those will be questioned in the other papers. Other papers, I will not explain this, right? Write this down for sure. Okay. Inelastic demand. Inelastic demand, we'll look at a situation. We'll look at price, right? Price, let's say quantity. Okay. Price, quantity. and let's say, okay, quantity demanded, and let's say total revenue, or in other words, consumer expenditure. Yes, you all can ignore the negative sign because in PED, answer is always negative. So 0.8 minus 0.8, same thing, no one. Let's say the price is 10 rupees. Let's say when the price is 10 rupees, people bought 100 units. Can you all tell me what is the total revenue or the consumer expenditure? Anyone? Yeah, exactly. It is 1000. Easy one. Let's now assume, right? We'll now assume that this price changes. Okay, I'll try to put it into this itself. Okay, let's say the price, right, from 10 rupees goes down to 5, a huge drop in the price, but demand is inelastic. So you all know when price falls, demand has to increase. That you all know, no? Price falling, quantity demand should increase, law of demand. But according to this situation, it is inelastic. What does inelastic means? When price changes, quantity demand will change only by a little, exactly, a small proportion. So based on that, can you all give me a number for quantity demand? If the price is 5, maybe a rough number, what can quantity demanded be? Give me a rough number. When price decrease, remember quantity demand has to increase. Yes, quantity demand has to increase. It can't go less than 100, because if going less than 100 means you're going against the law of demand. Yeah. Okay, so I'll give in a number. I'll say 120, right? A small increase. When price went from 10 to 5, right? Since this is inelastic demand, since the demand is inelastic, price fell by a lot, half decreased, right? 10 went to 5, but demand increased only from 100 to 120, only a 20% increase in quantity demanded. You all get that? How the why 120 is a logical answer? Because anything below 100 is not practical, because you are going against the law of demand. Because when price falls, price 10 itself, quantity demand is 100. When the price is 5, how can quantity demand be 100? Less than 100? Can't be, no, because then it's not logical. No? So obviously quantity demand should be more than 100. More than 100, but since it's inelastic, it only increases by a very little. So for according to this, now can you all tell me how much is the total revenue or the consumer's expenditure? Exactly 600. Let's say the other side of this. Let's say the price increased to 50, right? Price was 10, now it increased to 15, a 50% increase in the price. When the price increased, can you all give me a rough number, right? Can you all give me a rough number for this? When the price increased, QD should fall now, remember? Guys, I'm giving rough numbers, right? It doesn't have to be, there is no right or wrong answer, right? Okay, so we'll go with 80. Yeah, we'll go with 80, right? So then how much is our revenue now? Can someone tell me? Yes, 80 into 15, 1200. Now observe this very carefully. When you had inelastic demand, right? Inelastic demand, when the price decreased, it went from 10 to 5. What happened to the total revenue? Total revenue decreased. When you went and increased the price, when you increase the price, then the total revenue increased. Earlier you were earning only 1000 rupees. Now if you put the price down to 5, your total revenue will fall to 600. Bad for you. If you increase the price to 15, total revenue would increase to 1200. Yes. So what is better, right? That price 5. Which price 5? Okay. So I'm just giving you guys, don't ask me where these 120 and 5 and 15 came. These are random numbers that I gave to explain the concept, to show the relationship between price and total revenue. These are just normal numbers I have given. I'm saying initially the price is 10, quantity demand is 100, therefore total revenue is 1000. Now I'm saying assume the price fell to 5. So if the price falls to 5, what happens? Quantity demand will increase only by a little. Why? Because demand is inelastic here. You're only talking about inelastic demand. So then total revenue will be 600. If the price increase to 15, since demand is inelastic, people will not quit much. Only a little people will quit buying the product. So it will go to 80. total revenue will become 1200. So according to that, what is the summary that we can give? If it is inelastic, right? If price increase, what happens? Total revenue or the consumer expenditure also increases. If price decrease, what happens? The total revenue or the consumer expenditure also decreases. In other words, what does it have? It has a positive relationship. What has a positive relationship? Not price and quantity demanded, price and total revenue. Price and total revenue has a price and total revenue, in other words, consumer expenditure, has a positive relationship. Okay, so could there be a fall in total revenue when the price falls? When the price falls, fall in total revenue when the price falls. So in this situation, it is possible, right? When the price fell, what happened? When the price fell to 5 rupees, total revenue fell. Because why? Demand is inelastic. When the price falls, demand increases only by a little. People don't react to the demand. They don't want it. It's inelastic. They're not changing their demand much. So price fell by a lot, but the demand increased only by a little. So as a result, total revenue would fall, right? This is inelastic, right? So then we'll go into the other side. Do you all understand this part? How do you find it's inelastic? So in the question, they will tell you it is inelastic, right? So or else they will give you the value of PED, right? They will say the value of PED is this much. It will say 0.5, 0.6. So you should know anything between 0 and 1 means inelastic. Yes, consumer expenditure means consumer outlay. Same thing, okay? Then we'll go into the other situation of elastic demand. What is elastic demand? Anyone? Elastic demand means, I will have that on green. Elastic demand means, okay, I'll explain that part when I do elastic demand. That is where when price changes, quantity demanded changes by a greater proportion. Quantity demanded changes by a lot, right? So we look at this situation. This is where the price elasticity of demand is greater than 0. It is greater than greater than 1, less than unity, right? Less than infinity, right? So infinity, I don't have the sign. I'll just write infinity. You all write the sign down. Okay, infinity sign, you all know when you turn the 8 upside down. Yeah, that is infinity sign. So it is greater than 1, less than infinity. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 200, 1.5, 2.5, anything is elastic demand. What is elastic demand? When the price changes, quantity demanded changes by a greater proportion. Small change in price, but quantity demanded changes by a lot. That is what elastic demand means. So then we'll look at this situation. Let's say there is price, let's say there is quantity demanded, and let's say second quantity demanded, and then total revenue or consumer expense. Let's say again the price was 10, quantity demanded was 100 initially, and the total revenue was 1000. Now let's say the price falls here. Let's say there is a small drop in the price. Let's say price drops to 8. Can you all give me a rough value for quantity demanded? Think practical. When price falls by a little, according to this, what should happen? When price falls, quantity demand should increase. That is the first thing that you all should know. And it should increase by how much? It should increase by a greater proportion. It should increase by a lot. Price falls by 20%, quantity demanded should increase by a lot. Okay, so anything above 20%. So I'll just give you an answer of 150 because it's easy for me to multiply. Doesn't have to be 150 always. Any number, let's say more than 120 would be good, would be correct. I'll just give 150 because it's easy for me to multiply. So 8 into 150, we get 1200 as total revenue. Fine, done. Let's say the price increased here. Elastic demand, price increase. When the price increases, what happens to quantity demanded? Should fall. According to this, it is elastic. So it should fall by a lot. price increases from 10 to 12, only a 20% increase, quantity demanded should fall by a lot. So maybe a nice rough answer could be 50, like you all have said. Yes. So according to that, it would be 600. Now look at this situation. It's the opposite of what we looked at previously. Now here, when you increase price, sorry, when you decrease price from 10 to 8, when you decrease price, the total revenue increase. If you go and do the other side of it, if you increase the price, right, total revenue will fall. So I've matched the colors here, right? So here in inelastic, if you decrease price, total revenue falls. In elastic, if you increase price, total revenue will fall. I explained the logic behind it using these numbers, right? So then what is the conclusion that we can give? If price increase, what happens? Total revenue or the consumer expenditure decreases. If price decrease, what happens? The total revenue or the consumer expenditure increases. So what type of relationship does this have? The price and the total revenue will have a negative relationship. So price and total revenue, or in other words, consumer expenditure, has what type of relationship? A negative relationship, right? So that is that. Do you all understand that part? The relationship between price and price elasticity of demand. Depending on the price elasticity of demand, how does total revenue change? If it is elastic, it is one way. If it is inelastic, it's another way. Now this is how practically what, let's say, a producer thinks. Now let's say the producer has identified that his product is inelastic. Let's say he has identified the demand for his product is inelastic. Then if he wants to increase his revenue, what should he do? He should increase the price, right? Because if he has identified his product is inelastic, if he wants to increase revenue, he has to increase price. Let's say he has identified his product is elastic. Then what should he do to increase his revenue? Then he should decrease the price. Exactly. So that is how they practically think, right? This is not just a theoretical area. They use this in practical context. They identify whether their product is elastic or inelastic. According to that, they will see how they should increase the price or decrease the price. Okay, that is elastic in elastic. Then you have the middle one in this. Why did I leave this middle space? For unitary elastic. What is unitary elastic? Anyone? How do you identify a product it is, whether a product is elastic or inelastic? Based on the PED value, you can identify. They will give you in the question that one. Okay. So what is unitary elastic? Unitary elastic is where when the price changes, the quantity demanded also changes by an equal proportion. The percentage change in price is equal to the percentage change in quantity demand. So according to this, what is the PED equal to? PED coefficient is equal to 1. So if it is less than 1, inelastic. If it is 1, unitary elastic. If it is greater than 1, elastic. Now in a situation like this, yeah, give me a second, let me box these out. Getting confused. Wait. Okay, that's a bad shape to draw, no? Give me a couple of seconds. Let's try to make this nice. Zoom out a little. Okay, looks better, no? I actually like having things to look very nice. Okay, perfect. So unitary elastic demand. Now let's again draw and see. In this situation, what happens? Price, quantity demanded, total revenue, or consumer expenditure. Let's say price was 10, quantity demanded, my normal example 100, total revenue is 1000. Now in this situation, it's a very unique situation. Now since the price and the quantity demanded, the percentage change in price and the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal, see what happens. Let's say the price falls to 5, right? Quantity demanded would increase to 200. Total revenue will remain at 1000. Let's say the price goes to, let's say, 20, right? The quantity demanded would fall to 50. Total revenue would remain at 1000. So in a unitary elastic situation, what you all have to remember is this: whether you increase price or whether you decrease price, no matter what you do, increase or decrease, total revenue will not change. Remember that. So they will not tell you unitary elastic. They will sometimes tell you PED equals 1. Then they will tell you, ask you what has happened. So there are a lot of questions, interesting questions in the past papers will do. Then you all would understand how they question from this. But you all have to know this. See, now look at this MCQ. In this MCQ, are they even telling you about the PED and total revenue relationship? No, they are just saying PED is minus 0.8. If the firm raises prices, what will happen to revenue? That is all they are asking. So I'll show you all how to answer that. But what I explained is very, very, very important, right? So I'll give you all maybe a couple of seconds, right? So write it down. Can someone take a screenshot and share it on the groups as well, so that you all will not forget this? Yeah. Okay, this is a very, very, very important area, right? That they question you always in MCQs, highly tested. Okay. Done. Have you all sent? Yes, no? Someone? Okay, someone has sent. Perfect. So then we'll do this. We'll look at this MCQ. MCQ number 13. Right now, I will not explain this again and again in the future MCQ. That is why I said this class is very, very important to come. Right? I'm hoping you all did come. Okay. Question number 13. Price elastic demand for a product manufactured by a firm is minus 0.8. If the firm raises prices, minus 0.8, elastic or inelastic? First question, elastic or inelastic? Yeah, it is inelastic. Anything between 0 and 1 is inelastic. Inelastic if the firm increases prices. Come to your diagram and see what happens. Diagram. Inelastic if the firm increase the price, let's say from 10 to 15, what happened to total revenue? Total revenue also increases. Now if I have told that before, none of you all would have understood it, but now I think at least one person would have learned this and got the logic behind this. Okay, I'm hoping you all, I'm hoping everyone did, but at least someone. Okay, so when the product's price increases, total revenue will rise, right? According to everything, right? So revision class students, if you all did not understand, watch the recording. Others, please spend some time, try to figure it out, right? It's an easy concept, a very important concept as well, right? Question number 13, 2011. Done, dusted. Okay. Okay. Another question from elasticity. Which statement? Okay, so this is 2011 paper, right? For the revision class students, yes, I'll upload the recording if you're there. Okay. 2011, question number 14. Which statement correctly describes the price elasticity of supply along the curve shown in the above diagram? First of all, based on the diagram, can you all tell me whether this is an elastic demand curve, inelastic demand curve, or a unitary elastic demand curve? How do you figure that out based on the diagram? Do you all know that? Yes. So this is a very, this is not exactly tested in this question, but I'm just telling you all this. Remember, if the curve, right? If the curve, starts from this axis, if it has a negative intercept, then it is a this thing. Okay, so shall we take a 2-minute break for the azan? Right? Give me 2 minutes. You'll also take a 2-minute break. Try to figure this out. Okay. Yes, fine, shape, good to go. Okay, question number 14. Right. Question number 14. Which of the statement correctly describes the price elastic supply along the curve shown in the above diagram? Basic things that I want to tell you. Right. When we look at price elastic supply, if the curve is like this, it is an elastic supply curve. If the curve goes right from the middle, right, it can be like this, it can be like this. As long as it starts from the origin, it is a unitary elastic supply curve, but they will not give you weird diagrams like this. But just imagine, if it starts from the middle, if it starts from the origin, it's a unitary elastic supply curve. And if it starts from a positive intercept, it starts like this, right? Mehemega. If you have a supply curve like that, then it is a inelastic. The blue is inelastic, the green is unitary elastic, the black line, the original supply curve in the diagram, is elastic. Okay, just remember that. Yeah, basic thing. Then what happens in a curve like this? Which statement correctly describes the price elasticity of supply along the curve shown in the diagram above? It is constant and greater than unity. Uh, it is constant and less than unity. It is equal to unity. It diminishes. Okay, this part is this. Based on the shape of the curve, you can say what type of elasticity it has. That is what I said before. If the curve starts from like this, it is an elastic supply curve, right? If the curve goes right from the middle, right? If it's like that curve, right, starts from this zero, then it's a unitary elastic supply curve. If the supply curve starts from, let's say, this part, then it is an inelastic supply curve. So remember that. Yeah, just random things that I wanted with you. Okay, then according to this, what do you think the answer is? What is the, what happens? It is constant and greater than unity. Will the value of price law supply be constant? No, right? Price law supply will always change from place to place. How do you calculate PES? PES equals, right, the change in quantity supplied, right, over the change in price, right, the change in price multiplied by what? Multiplied by the price and quantity supplied, right? So multiplied by, okay, so we put that, multiplied by the price and quantity supply. This is how you calculate PES. So at each different points, which of these changes? Does both of these change? Change in QS over change in price, or price over QS? Does both change or does only one change? Which one changes? Okay, if this is number, okay, sorry. Which one of these changes at each different point? Does this change or does this change? Which of these changes? One or two? If this is one, this can be two. Which of these changes at each different price? Yeah. So what changes? The slope. Remember, when you calculate no matter what, right? Price elasticity of demand or price elasticity of supply, the slope is constant. The slope will not change, right? What will change? It is the price and quantity supplied. The B value does not change. Exactly. This is the B value, no? Change in QS over change in price. That is the B value. That does not change. The second component, the price to quantity supplied ratio, that can change. Now I'm assuming you all have a basic understanding about PES, right? I said you all this is not a natural teach. I'll just revise the small concepts in brief. Okay. So according to this diagram, right, when you go from, let's say this point to, let's say, this point, right? If you look at this diagram very carefully, the price is increasing only by a little, right? Small increase, but the quantity supplied increases by a lot. Can you see? When you go from this point to this point, so along the supply curve, so when you're going along the supply curve, what happens when the quantity is increasing? They're asking what is happening to PES. So when the quantity is increasing, can you see, price is increasing by a little, but quantity supplied is increasing by a lot. Price is the numerator, quantity supplied is the denominator. This does not change. This is the slope of the curve. This does not change. So now what will happen to the value of PES then? Price numerator, this increases by a little, denominator increases by a lot. What happens? Does the answer increase or decrease? Okay, I'll give you all values if you all are confused. Let's say, right, let's say the B component of this diagram, right, let's say the slope is 5, right, slope is 5, right. Let's say we'll put in the numbers and see in these different situations. Let me remove this, right. You look at situation number 1, I'll put in a number, and situation number 2, I'll put in number and show it, right. So let's say price here is 100, right. Let's say from 100 it went to, let's say, 120, right. Small increase in price, 100 went to 120, right. Supply is elastic here. So let's say supply earlier was 1000 units. Sorry, supply earlier, let's say, is 1000 units, but now the supply went to, let's say, 1000. Sorry, it went to 2000 units here, right. So can you see elastic supply? Price increases by a little from 100 to 120. Supply goes from 1000 to 2000. Slope of this curve I have given as, okay, according to this slope is not 5, no. Change in quantity supplied is 1000. 1000 divided by 20. No, 1000 divided by 20 is 5, no. Hari. Slope is correct. So according to this, can you all calculate, okay, do this exercise, this point and this point. Let's say the first point is point, okay, okay, blue is point A, the green is point B. Can you all calculate the price elasticity of supply at point A and point B and tell me how much it is at point A and point B? Point A, anyone? Okay, point A done. Sorry, not 2000, 1000. Point B, to prices 120 quantities. Point B, how much is it? So this is the workings that you all should use. Point A and point B. What is the value of PES? So according to that, you can figure out whether the PES is increasing or whether the PES is decreasing. Point A, point B. Okay. What is happening? Point A, it is how much? What are the answers? Anyone? Someone? Okay. Okay, so here it is 0.5. Here it is equal to 0.5. What is the answer here? 0.3. B is 0.3, not 0.6. 0.3. Most of you all gave me 0.3. It's not 0.3. Just recheck your answer. It should be 0. Sorry, not 0.6. It should be 0.3. So what is happening when the quantity is increasing, right? When the quantity increase, now it's a which statement correct describes the price of supply along the supply curve shown in the above diagram. Number 1 says it is constant. Is it constant? No. PS is changing. 0.5 became 0.3. It's not constant. So 1 is wrong. So why is that 5? How do I get the 5? I got the 5 change in QS over change in P. Quantity supplied is changing by 1000. Price is changing by 20. 1000 divided by 20 is 5. That is how I got that. Okay, sorry, 50. 1000 divided by 20 is 50. Sorry. Okay. Okay, put 50 and get the answer. You will get, so this should be, then this should be 5, there should be 3. Yeah, my value, don't trust too much on my values. Okay, now it should be right, 5 and 3. Okay, fine. So I'm just giving you numbers just to prove whether it's increasing or decreasing. Okay, I know that was not greater than this thing. Okay, so if this is 50, right, look at this very carefully. Number 1 rejected. Number 2 says it is constant and less than unity. No, it is not constant. No, it is changing. So not that as well. Look at number 3, right? If you look at number 3, it is equal to unity at all times. Equal to unity means it should be equal to 1. Is it equal to 1? No, right? Number 4, it diminishes as quantity increases. Can you see? When quantity increased from 1000 to 2000, what happened to the value of PES? It went from 5 to 3. So that is correct. It diminishes as quantity increases. Then last one, it increases as quantity increases. No. When the quantity increases, what happens? The value fell. So it's not this as well. So that is how you figure that out. So according to this, when it is, okay, now this is the first time you all are doing it, but in general, if you all have to remember, when it is elastic, when the quantity is increasing, right? I'll give you all maybe a summary, right? Let's say it is elastic. Okay, it is elastic when the quantity supplied is increasing, right? PES value decreases, right? If you are going along the curve, PES value decreases. This doesn't happen the same thing the other way. It's the other way. When it is inelastic, right? When the quantity supply increases, right? You all can put values and look at, check it out at home. The PES value actually increases, right? So that would be the story, right? So here it would be greater than 1 and it would keep on decreasing. Here it would be less than 1 and it would keep on increasing up to 1. So it will say 0.5 will become 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, it will go up to 1. Here it will be, let's say, for example, my example now it's 5, it will keep on decreasing until 1. It will not go less than 1. Here it will not go more than 1. So here it will keep on increasing when it's inelastic. When it's elastic, it will keep on decreasing. In this example, they've given you a elastic supply curve. So it might reach 1 at certain point, but then after that you are looking at not a elastic supply curve. So don't go on to that level. But generally remember, it is greater than, in elastic, it is greater than unity, right? More than 1. And as quantity increases, the PES will decrease. When it is inelastic, if I draw a diagram like this, let's say I draw a diagram like this, okay? So according to this diagram, when it's a diagram like this, what happens? The value is less than 1, but when quantity increases, right? When quantity increases, the value of PES will increase when it is inelastic, right? Remember that. So this is now same question. They can turn it the other way around and give it in your year. They can give a curve like this, and they can ask you when the price is increasing, what is happening? Sorry, when the quantity is increasing, what is happening in the quantity supply? Guys, I feel this question, some of y'all might be lost. Guys, are y'all lost? Yes or no? Yes, are we lost or are we okay? Are we on track? I feel some of y'all, based on the amount of answers that I'm getting, are y'all okay? Okay, I'm getting okay and no, I'm not sure. Are y'all okay or not? Yes or no? I don't think this is a that of a tough area, right? I think y'all, okay, for this, I think what y'all should be there, okay? If y'all are, kind of lost, to the people who are lost, okay, what I think y'all should do is go and refer, right? Y'all would have gone to, some class. Yes, I would have gone for, some class. So what y'all should do is that class teacher would have taught you price elasticity of supply. When doing price elasticity of supply, the teacher would have taught you what is elastic and what is inelastic, right? So elastic, the teacher would have given you a different type of supply curve. Inelastic, the teacher would have given you a different type of supply curve. Next to that, there would be some sort of note that the teacher would have given you what it means. If you have understood that part properly, I think this should be okay. So write whatever that is there down, right? Because I'm not teaching theory here, I'm doing the past papers, right? So I'm hoping with the expectation that you all have studied this under someone only I'm teaching, because if I'm teaching theory, it will be a different approach. See, even now going this slow, look at how many questions have we done. We have done only around 5 or 6. So actually I should increase pace, but I'm not increasing pace, because if I increase pace, none of you all will understand. So I'm going very, very slow. I don't think I can go slower than this. So, right, for some, really smart people, this can be too slow and boring. Really sorry for that. Right, so do the papers and come study that unit and come go through whatever tutor note to your school teachers or anything and come, and then I think you would understand this better. Don't come to this thing completely blank, because I'll honestly tell you, it's it makes my job hard as well to to teach you from scrap, and it makes your job hard as well because you might not really get things right. So this is, I think, the best I can do with this question, breaking it down, putting numbers and trying to explain it. And I don't think you have to even give numbers and try to explain this. If it's a really smart person who knows this, I can tell you demand is elastic. So elastic means if price increases, quantity supplied increases by a greater proportion. So this, what is happening? This second component, price over quantity supplied, will increase. As a result, the what PES would diminish. I can tell you that. But if I told you all that, you all would have not understood. That is why I gave you all numbers and tried to this thing. That's that. Okay. Okay. We'll do this paper and we'll get a break, right? Okay. 2 more questions. I think. Okay. Now I think questions will be much more easier. Question number 15. A market is defined as being in equilibrium when there is maximum output at minimum cost, producer surplus is minimized, price is at the lowest possible, consumer satisfaction is maximized, no tendency for the price to change. What do you all think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Market is at equilibrium. The market is at equilibrium when the expectations of the producer and the expectations of the consumer are met. So when the expectations of the producer and the consumer is met, what happens? The price will not change. The price will remain constant. There is no tendency, right? You have a demand and supply, right? If it has met equilibrium, there is no tendency for this price to increase or decrease, according to what you all have told me. Answer number 5, right? That is the answer. Easy one. Yeah. Consumer surplus, I'll explain when we do a consumer surplus question. Okay. Don't worry. Tendency means, there is no need for it. No need for it to either increase or decrease. Okay. Okay. Okay, there's another question. This is another area that you all have to know. Assuming price or demand for a product is 0, any tax imposed on the product will. Now, this is a thing that you all have to know with this thing. Okay, so what you all have to know is elasticity, right? Elasticity and tax burden. Just go and check with whatever whatever note that you all have studied. There'll be something like this: elasticity and tax burden. This is where that question is coming from. So what you all should know, the summary is, right? The summary. What is the summary? Anyone? How can you easily figure out if it is elastic, who bears most of, if we'll say demand is elastic, who bears most of the tax? If demand is inelastic, who bears most of the tax? If supply is elastic, who bears most of the tax? How does that work? Do you all know that part? That is another long part. I'm hoping you all have some understanding on that. Yes, no, never heard. Okay, I'll give you like a basic thing here, right? If you look at a diagram, right? If you look at a, let's say there is a demand curve. Right now, drawing this diagram is the hard part. There is a demand curve. Let's say there is a supply curve, right? What happens when there is a tax imposed? When there's a tax imposed, the supply shifts to the left, right? There's a leftward shift of the supply curve. Okay, drawing this curve is the hardest point, but let me try. Why can't I draw? Okay, let me draw it slowly. Okay, so let's say this is what happens. Supply shifts to the left. So when supply shifts to the left, okay, give me a second. I'll share my tute. That would make more sense than this. Okay, give a second. Hold on for a little. Okay. Okay, coming from my theory tutes. Okay, this part. Okay, we'll just look at a unitary elastic situation. Okay, this is a situation of unitary elastic demand. Now, what happens here is when there is a tax, right? When there is a tax, what happens? The supply curve shifts to the left, right? Leftward shift. So when there is a leftward shift in the supply curve, what happens? You now have a new equilibrium price and a new equilibrium quantity. So according to that, right, if you all know the basics of taxes, right, we have this box and we have this box. What are these two boxes? What is A, what is B? One is consumer bond tax, one is producer bond tax. What is A? A is the top boxes, consumer bond tax or producer bond tax. Exactly, it is consumer bond tax. B is producer bond tax. A is consumer, B is producer, right? So according to this diagram, when we had unitary elastic demand, right, both the boxes were of the same size. So in other words, when demand was unitary elastic, consumer tax burden is also equal to the producer tax burden. Consumer tax burden and the producer tax burden are equal. Whatever note you all studied would have something like this. Go and check. Okay. Then in a situation when you have inelastic demand, see now, can you see the shape of my demand curve? It has changed, right? This is how an inelastic demand curve looks, right? You all know the basics. So if you look at this, now can you see that the consumer bond tax is more? Yes, the A component, the box of A is more than, the rectangle A is bigger than the rectangle B. Yes, consumer bond tax bigger than producer bond tax here. So inelastic demand, this is the situation. You can draw this and figure it out. Then when the demand is elastic, can you see this? When the demand is elastic, can you see the producer bond tax? This B rectangle is bigger than this A rectangle. Yeah. So then the producer bears most of the tax. Now remembering all these diagrams is hard. Now same way for supply also you all will have. Now this is, I made the students draw this at the revision class. Students, I remember, I think you all drew this and you all do remember. Revision class students, okay, the ones who were there I think 2 months ago. I'm hoping at least there is someone in this class, yeah, where you all drew these diagrams and figured it out. Yeah. So what is the summary in this? The summary here is that, higher, whichever party is more inelastic would bear most of the taxes. Let's say in a situation, right? Let's say you have elastic demand, right? And let's say unitary elastic supply. Okay, from these two, can you tell me who is more inelastic? Demand means consumer, supply means producer. Who is more inelastic? Elastic demand, unitary elastic supply. Is the producer more inelastic or the consumer more inelastic? Who is more towards inelastic here? Producer or the consumer? Okay, I'll give numbers. So let's say PED, according to this example, I'm saying elastic. PED, let's say 5. Okay. PES, I'm saying unitary elastic supply. So PES is 1. So inelastic means it should be between 0 to 1. Who is okay? Who is closer to being inelastic? Comparatively, who is inelastic? The consumer, that is PED, or producer, PES. Yeah, comparatively, who is inelastic? It is the supplier who is inelastic, or the producer who is inelastic. So in this situation, in a situation of this, who will bear most of the tax? Whoever who is inelastic. Summary is whichever party who is inelastic will bear most of the tax. So according to this example, in a situation of elastic demand and unitary elastic supply, who is more inelastic? Supply is more inelastic, or the producer is more inelastic. So producer bears, right? You can draw the diagram and see, right? Producer bears most of the tax. I'll give you a situation like this. Tell me who will bear most of the tax. PED equals, let's say 2, PES equals 2.5. Who will bear most of the tax if this is a situation? PED means consumer, PES means from the producer. Who will bear most of the tax? Producer or the consumer? To find who will bear most of the tax, you have to figure out Who is more inelastic? Now, according to this, both are elastic. No, P greater than 1 means elastic. PD is 2, PES is also 2. But comparatively, who is more inelastic? Comparatively, consumer is more inelastic. So in a situation like this, consumer bears most of the tax. Now, in a situation where, let's say, the demand, right? Let's say PED equals 0, right? PED equals 0. That is where you have perfectly inelastic demand. Do you get that? PED equals 0. Perfectly inelastic demand. In a situation like this, what do you think happens? I said higher the inelasticity, higher the tax burden. Yes, always. Whichever party, whether the producer or supplier, who is more inelastic will bear most of the tax. Now, according to this situation, if the PED is 0, if the PED is perfectly inelastic, who do you think will bear most of the tax? In a situation like this, the consumer will bear the entire tax, right? Consumer will bear, right? Is perfectly inelastic. No, consumer will bear the entire tax. So let's say PED is infinity. PED, okay, I don't have the infinity sign, but I'm writing this, right? PED is infinity. Let's say perfectly elastic. Let's say the demand is perfectly elastic. In a situation like this, what will happen? Who will bear the tax? The producer will bear the entire tax, right? So this is, guys, this is just a recap, right? I'm not teaching anything here. I'm just reminding you all there is something like this, right? Producer will bear the entire tax. I'm just telling you all, guys, these are important concepts. Please go and refer to whatever tute or note or anything that you all have and try to understand this. It's a very important concept, right? So producer will bear the entire tax. So now we'll come back to, let's say, our question. I just gave you all the basic knowledge, right? Let's come into this question. This question says, assuming price elasticity of demand for a product is 0, PED is 0. What does that mean? Perfectly what? Elastic or inelastic? PED 0? Anyone? If PED is 0, price elastic demand 0. Demand is perfectly inelastic. So if demand is perfectly inelastic, who will bear the tax? Demand is perfectly inelastic, right? Okay, whole I missed that. All 10 256, really? Okay, not bad. Okay, I missed that message. Okay, someone who told me how to get infinity. Your message went up with all the replies. Can you resend that? Yes. Okay, demand is perfectly inelastic where PED is equal to 0. So PED is equal to 0 means what happens? Who will bear the entire tax? Perfectly inelastic. So the consumer bears the entire tax. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Consumer bearing entire tax mean? Okay, give me a second. All 256. Okay, does that work? All 236. Oh, it comes. No, not bad. Okay, nice. Thank you for that. Don't know, I will forget that. Okay, so this thing. Now here, no, even this they have not directly given you the answer. Consumer bearing entire tax means, let's say the price of a product was rupees, price before tax was rupees. Okay, wait, my this thing is a little stuck. Okay, but okay, price. Okay, let's try to figure this out. Let's say price before tax, right? Let's say price before tax is equal to rupees, let's say 10. Let's say there is a tax of rupees 5. So if the demand is perfectly inelastic, that means this entire tax will be borne by the consumer. So how does consumer bear a tax? If the price increases, that means that is the tax that he bears. No, Earlier he pays 10 rupees. Now if he's paying 12 rupees because of a tax, that means he's bearing 2 rupees of a tax. Right? Earlier price 10, now there is a tax and he is paying 12, means he is bearing 2 rupees of a tax. So in a situation like this, right? So here what happens is, right, when it's perfectly inelastic, right, when you have perfectly inelastic demand, right? So when there is a tax of 5, what happens? What happens price after tax? How much is the price after tax? Exactly, price after tax becomes rupees 15. Why? Because the entire tax is borne by the consumer. When there is a tax that comes, right, since demand is perfectly inelastic, entire tax is borne by the consumer. So in this situation, let's say assuming the price as your demand for a product is 0, any tax imposed will do what? Will leave the position of supply unchanged? Will the supply be unchanged? No. When there is a tax, supply will shift to the left. Supply shift to the right? No, supply shift to the left. Then they say shift the demand curve to the right? No, demand curve will not shift. When there is a what? When there is a tax, supply curve will only shift to the left, not 1, 2, and 3. Be entirely paid by the producer. Should it entirely be paid by the producer? No. It's the consumer who is perfectly inelastic. Higher the inelasticity, higher the tax burden. Who is inelastic? Producer or consumer? Consumer. So consumer should only pay the tax, not the producer. So number 4 is also wrong. Number 5 says raise the price by the product, raise the price of the product by the full amount of the tax. Can you see? Price before tax was 10 rupees, right? Then okay, so if I am to draw this demand curve, okay, let me draw it and show you, right? So this is how it would look like, right? Let me draw this. So you have a okay, bad noise. Okay, you have this diagram, right? You have a perfectly inelastic demand curve. Let's say you have a perfect inelastic demand curve, means straight line demand curve, right? Okay, straight line demand curve. And you have a normal supply curve. They're not talking about supply, so you have a normal supply curve. Fine. Yes, this was the equilibrium price before, right? We had an equilibrium price before, right? Equilibrium quantity. Now, what happened when there is a tax that is imposed? What happens? The supply shifts to the left. This is what happens. Supply goes dot 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 left. So then what happens? You have now a new equilibrium price. So can you see, right? Remember, if you all have studied, I know in your class, in whatever teacher would have told you how to find the producer tax burden and how to find the consumer tax burden. The teacher would have told you from the new equilibrium point, you connect to your old supply curve and you draw a box. That is how you can get the tax burden. So according to this, if you properly, I don't know, I'm hoping guys you all know that part, right? If you look at this entire box here is what? Consumer tax burden. There is no producer tax burden here. Entire thing is the consumer tax burden. Can you see? Earlier, let's say the price was, let's say 10 rupees, right? Earlier, let's say the price was 10. Now the price has gone to 50. The entire tax is borne by the consumer. So when the entire tax is borne by the consumer, raise the price of the product by the full amount of tax. When a tax is imposed, it would raise the price of the product by the full amount of the tax. The answer is number 5 there, right? I'm hoping you all did understand and you all had some sort of understanding. Yes, shape, no loss. Yes, I'm trying to, because to explain this, I have to explain a lot of other things, right? I have to show you how a demand and supply curve works. I have to show you how to, find producer tax burden, let's say consumer tax burden, and how to show that, right? It gets a little this thing, but I'm trying to give it as a very basic form, so you all do understand. Okay, so that is that with question number 16. Okay, we have one more question. Yeah, we'll do this question and we'll take a break. Okay, question number 17. ඉවර වෙන්නේ නැහැ. I thought 16 ඉඳන් done කියලා. Okay. Question number 17. It's a nice question. In the diagram below, DD represent the demand for bus service in a university community, right? You only have a demand. A bus fare of the journey was OP. So let's say that was the price before. Earlier, the price was set at this amount, OP. Price. Then they say, and the amount amount of journeys was ON. If the university authorities decide to provide the bus service free of charge, now earlier price was OP, now the price is 0, free. As a result, the number of journeys increases to OM. How will consumer surplus change? Now, what is consumer surplus? Right? So how do you figure this consumer surplus? Now, I think I explained the logic behind consumer surplus to my revision students. I'm hoping any teacher would have done that. Right? What is consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is the difference between what the consumer is willing to pay and what he actually pays. Now, if the price is set at OP, right? If this is the price, right? Let's say to buy the first unit, the consumer is willing to pay this much. If you connect to the demand curve, let's say he's willing to pay, let's say 7 rupees. But because of equilibrium, right, in the market, because of the price that is set, he only pays 4 rupees. So this 3 rupees, right, this 3 rupees becomes his consumer surplus. He's willing to pay 7, he only pays 4. If you look at the next quantity, right, let's say to buy this much amount of goods, let's say to buy 5, okay, let's say to buy 10 units of the good, he's willing to pay 6 rupees, but in the market, if he goes and buys, he only pays 4 rupees. So that 2 rupees becomes his consumer surplus. Likewise, this entire portion becomes the consumer surplus. If the price is OP, if this is the price, this entire portion becomes the consumer surplus. Why? Because consumer is willing to pay a higher price, but he only pays OP. So that difference is his consumer surplus. So then, if the product is given for free, what is the price? If the product is given for free, the price is 0. This is the price. So consumer is willing to pay this much, he pays nothing. Willing to pay this much, pays nothing. This much, nothing. This entire portion becomes consumer surplus, right? So that is how consumer surplus comes. You don't actually have to have, let's say, a supply curve to find consumer surplus and do all of that. So according to that, can you all figure out what the answer is? Consumer surplus will change from what to what? Earlier it was A. From A, it would go to A, B, and C. So answer number 3. From A, it would go to A, B, and C. Answer number 3. Right? That is the answer for question number 17. Right? So we'll talk about more consumer surplus questions when we discuss later. Okay, basic thing there. Okay, are we done or is there 18th question? Okay, there is 18th question. So we'll do this and take a break. Okay, is there a 19th question? I don't think. No, 19th and so 18th color will take a break. Okay, at least let's finish this off. Okay, this is an easy one. Question number 18. The diagram below shows the supply and demand for rice with market equilibrium. Okay, market equilibrium at E, right? Equilibrium at E. Assume that the government decides to impose a maximum price of P1 per unit of rice. Okay, they impose a maximum price. Easy thing, no? Most likely outcome. When there is a maximum price, what happens, guys? When this is set as maximum price, at this price, whenever there is a maximum price, the supply is only this much, the demand is this much. So what does that create? That creates a situation of excess demand. Whenever there is a maximum price, remember, there is an excess demand. So according to this, the answer is what? Number 5, excess demand by JK. That is the simple answer. Okay, since you really want a break, I'll give you all a 6-minute break, right? It's 6:34, right? Be back by 6:40. 6:34, be back by 6:40. Okay? If you all leave, please join back, right? If you all are staying, just mute it and go. Anyway, you all are mute now. Okay, yes, okay, there are a few questions. Guys, questions I'll answer once we are done with the class. Yeah, at 7, once we are over, I will not run away, don't worry. Any questions that you all missed, anything that you all did not understand, I'll clear it then. Okay. Are you all back? Yes. Can you all at least drop a message saying something that you all are back? Right? Say back. Oh, okay. Or say any rubbish, because at least for me to get a count of how many people are back. Say something apart from a yes will. Yes and back. Something fun at least. Okay. Only a little people are back. No, I only got, I think, around 10 replies. Others? No? Yes, if you are back, just say something on the chat box. You can say anything. So I can get a count of how many are back. Yes, is my voice getting stuck? And okay, there's anything. No, no interesting answers. No, all are back and yes. Nothing. Okay. Oh, I think most of y'all are. Is also make sure, okay, now if you all are in class, right, how we mark your attendance is make sure with your name properly renamed, you at least send in one message, right? So based on the messages you all send, based on the chat box, only your attendance is marked. At least in the 2 hours, make sure at least you send one message with your proper name there, right? So based on that only your attendance will be marked, because in case there is an issue of capacity and all of that, we'll be removing people with low attendance and all of that. Okay, right, that most of y'all are there. You have my back now. See you, I was expecting something more interesting than y'all, and that from y'all. Okay, nice. Okay, there's a front also. Perfect. Okay. Okay, nice. So I think most of y'all are back. I think I got around 100 new messages. Okay. Nice. So okay, not audible, now audible. Fine. Yes, if you all have audible issues, just let me know. Right. So if everyone has it, means that means there is something wrong in my end. But if only one person has it, maybe something on your end. Okay. Right. Starting 2012. I read it faster. 6 minutes is more than enough. Okay. 2012 question number 7. Okay. It says back to 2000 unit number 2 and 3. Right. The diagram above shows the market demand for good X. A movement from point A to B would most likely be caused by, right? You have A to B. Some words in Tamil, I actually don't know Tamil. Sad story. I understand Tamil, but I can't speak Tamil. I understand Tamil very well. Not very well in the sense. No. Good at it. I know my Sinhala well, I know my English well, but Tamil that. Tamil theriyille. Okay. Question. Okay. Diagram shows that move from A to B. Easy thing now, guys. Okay. Market demand, a movement from point A to B. So one way it can move from point A to B is one thing. Maybe the price has fallen. Maybe price was this much. Now the price went to this much. That can be one reason. If not, what could have happened is maybe there would have been a supply curve. There would have been a supply curve like this. Now, because of something, the supply curve would have shifted. No, guys, not posh people. I don't know, for some reason I can't speak Tamil. But I was better, right? Before going to university, full bad, right? But at least after going to university, there are fellows who speak Tamil. Now konjam konjam pulva. Okay, so I understand Tamil, but I don't want to speak Tamil because it will become a joke then. Yeah. But don't worry, if the only language that you can speak is Tamil, you can speak to me. I will understand Tamil. Yeah. So don't worry. Okay, so one thing, right? How can you move from A to B? One way that you can move from A to B is how? Yeah. So one way you can move from A to B is if your supply increases. So can you find in one of these reasons either one that says that the price falls or one that says that the supply increases? Okay. Okay, I'll speak to you in Tamil maybe the last day in this class. I'll learn something in Tamil and come. Deal. Once we finish all the past papers, which one of this will have a supply increase thing? Okay, question number 1, increase in the price of Y a substitute? No, right? So this is a demand, it would increase the demand. By increase in demand, can you go from A to B? No. Number two says increase in consumer income. Increase in consumer income also will increase demand. Can you go from A to B? Can't. Decrease in consumer income, that would reduce the demand. Can you go A to B? Bad. Fourth one, a decrease in production cost. Decrease in production cost. Yes, supply would increase. You can go from A to B. Decrease in the supply of good X. No, it would go that way. So 4 is the answer. It's a basic question that they test you. How, based on how you, whether you know whether the demand curve or supply curve shifts, how do they shift? That is what they're trying to test over here. I see so much of enthusiasm on the fact that me speaking Tamil, but not that much of enthusiasm on getting the past papers done. See, you're putting your focus on something wrong. That's it. Okay, question number 8, 2012. Which of the following would shift the supply curve of a good to the left? Easy one. Shift to the left. So shift to the left, what should happen? There should be any factor, right, other than the price that is gonna change. So supply would shift to the left. Sorry, that is the demand curve. Supply will shift to the left. Increase in cost of production. Yes, supply will shift to the left. Number 2, decrease in cost of production. No, if there is a decrease, supply will shift to the right. No. Increase in the price, supply will not shift to the left. Supply, it will move from one point to another point. Decrease in price, again, move from one point to another point. Decrease in demand will not affect the supply curve. So the answer is number 1, easy as ever, right? Question number 9. Okay, now this I will not explain again. Yeah, now based on what I explained, based on total revenue, based on consumer expenditure, now think. A consumer finds that his total expenditure on rice stays the same after the price of rice declines. The consumer expenditure has not changed. Price has fallen, but the consumer expenditure is still the same. Other things being equal, which of the following is true for this price change? Remember, I told you all, when you have unitary elastic demand or unit price elastic, when the PED is 1, right? When price changes, whether it increases or whether it decreases, does the consumer expenditure or the producer revenue change? No. The producer revenue, consumer expenditure will stay the same when it is unitary elastic. Now, this is what they are asking. Now, this is the same thing they're testing in different ways. The clue that they are giving is that the expenditure stays the same. So you have to know expenditure stays the same means they're talking about unitary elastic, number 5, right? So hoping you all were there at the beginning on that explanation, then this would have been nothing. Okay, that's that. Then moving on to question number 10. Okay, setting an effective price flow. What is a price flow, first of all? Okay, so you have, I hate drawing diagrams in this, but yes, let's try. You have this, you have this, right? So let's say this was the thing before, right? Normal. This was the consumer surplus A. Let's say B, this was producer surplus. This was the case. Now, when the government comes and imposes a price flow, another word for a price flow is a minimum price. That means the government feels that this price that let's say the producers are getting is unfair, right? The equilibrium price is not enough. So the government guarantees a price. Government gives you a price flow. In other words, that is a minimum price. So a minimum price is set above the equilibrium price. Why? Because the government thinks the price that the producers are getting is unfair. Producers are getting is not enough. Sometimes, let's say rice farmers, right? They put so much effort and they grow their crops, but they are not getting enough as an output. So the government comes and sets a higher price. Now, when the government does that, what happens? The consumer surplus falls. Why? Now the consumer has to pay a higher price. No, earlier consumer paid only this much. Remember, how did we calculate consumer surplus? Difference between what the consumer is willing to pay and what he actually pays. Now, when the price is set at this green level, only this area, right? only this area becomes consumer surplus. So consumer surplus actually falls, right? And what happens to producer surplus? Producer surplus actually increases, right? Given that the government buys the excess supply and all of that, right? You don't have to go into that detail, but just remember, in a effective price flow, because they are putting a price flow to support whom? They're putting a price flow to support the producer. So producer surplus will increase, consumer surplus will decrease, right? I would love to explain deficiency payment and what price support and all of that, but this is not the question, right? Because I'm just hoping and praying that you are really good at these parts, so it would make my life much easier. So number 4 is the answer. Okay, done. Question number 11. Okay, if the income elasticity is negative, cross elasticity is negative, which of the following should be the case? Okay, how does this work? I'll give you the basic summary, right? I'm hoping most of you all know this, right? Income elasticity, YED, right? If the income elasticity answer is positive, what do we call it? What type of good is it? If the YED is positive, we call it what type of good? If the answer is positive, when you calculate YED, it's a no, not a luxury. It's a normal good, right? If the answer is positive, if the YED answer is positive, it's a plus answer, it's a normal good. If it is a negative answer, if the answer you get is negative, then what type of good is it? Then it is a inferior good. Okay, inferior good. Then we can break this positive down to more, right? This positive can be broken down. This is this positive. If it is greater than 1, positive means anything more than 0, no? So if it is greater than 1, then what is it? If the YED is greater than 1, then it is called, exactly, then only it is called a luxury good. It is greater than 1, right? Than 1. If the YED is less than 1, it is positive, that means greater than 0, but it is less than 1. So is there 0 0.5, 0.6, something like that. It is less than 1, then it is called an essential good. Or in other words, you can call it a necessity, right? Luxuries and necessities or essential. Anyway, inferior, we'll stop there. We don't go into detail, right? That is based on YED, based on the answer that you get. How can you classify? If the answer is a positive, normal, negative, inferior. Okay, what is a given good? A given good, we'll talk about that. A given good is a good that has a positive relationship with price. When price increases, you buy more of it. That's a given good. I'll explain given good. There's a good example and all that when we come a question there. Okay, right. Let's get into this cross elasticity of demand, XED. Right. So some teachers might Veblen goods. Veblen goods are things that is also acts like a demand good. When price increases, you buy more. For the to show off kind of. That is Veblen. Okay, coming back to this XED, cross elasticity of demand. If the cross elasticity demand is positive, what do we call it? What type of good is it? XED is positive. The two goods are, what is XED calculating? XED is calculating the PE, the cross elasticity between two goods. So if the answer that you get is positive, what does that mean? The two goods are substitutes. If the answer that you get is a negative, right? If the answer that you get is a negative, then what do we call it? The two goods are complements. What are substitutes and complements? Substitutes are goods that you can use instead of one another. For example, anchor and rakti. If it is complementary, what does that mean? Two goods that you have to consume together, maybe anchor and let's say sugar, or let's say tea leaves, something like that. Okay, so then again you can break this down. Oops. Okay, positive, if the XED is greater than 1, what do we call it? Greater than 1? Greater than 1, exactly. Close substitutes. If it is less than 1, if the XED is less than 1, we call it what? Distant substitutes. Right? Basic thing. I will not be explaining this part again. Okay. According to this question is saying easy way to memorize. Don't memorize. I don't think you can memorize. Try to logically understand. It would be there. Now that PED thing, remember that PED, I put values and explain if it is elastic, this is what happens. If it is inelastic, this is what happens. Now I can say, but even when I was doing A levels, right? This whether increases or decreases, I put numbers only and see. I put elastic. I put 10 and 100,000. Okay, price is increasing. So logically, I think if price increase, elastic, no, demand should fall by a lot. Then I calculate total revenue and see what happens to total revenue. Even when I'm doing A levels, I did not know that. So I logically know this, but at once, if someone asks me elastic price increases, what happens to total revenue? Sometimes I can't say that. So I put values only and I figure it out. So logically try to understand concepts. Don't try to, spend a lot of time memorizing, because what you memorize, you will not remember also. So logically can do a good job. Okay. Right. So what is the answer then? They're saying income elasticity is negative. That means it's an inferior good. Cross elasticity is also negative. So it's an inferior good and the two goods are complementary goods. So what is the answer? We go to number 4 as the answer. X is an inferior good and is a complement to Y. Done? Okay, next one. Okay, now see again coming from elasticity and that revenue part also product connected. They say assume that demand for bottled water is relatively price elastic. An increase in supply of bottled water will result in which of the following? This is a really good question. They are not just testing PED and total revenue, they're testing something else as well. Now, first thing that you have to know, let's say you have a demand and a supply curve, right? Demand curve. Does anyone know a trick to draw straight lines using a mouse? Maybe, I don't know, any of your other teachers, if they can draw straight lines? I know this Microsoft whiteboard does not have shapes. Line they can have on the mouse only I have to draw this. Does anyone know any other teacher using Microsoft whiteboards and drawing straight? I know there's a ruler, but that takes time. Yes, if anyone knows, just let me know. Okay, so demand and supply, right? And then they say a increase in supply. So first of all, you have to figure out when there is an increase in supply, what happens? What happens to price? Right? If supply increase, what happened to price? Number one, price would increase or decrease. Exactly. When supply increases, the price would fall. The price would decrease. Number one. Now you get your thing. Now connect this to your PED and total revenue. Elastic, whatever you all wrote down before, go and check. Elastic. When price decreases, what happens to total revenue? Price decreases, total revenue, elastic. Total revenue. Anyone? What you all wrote down before, whatever screenshot that is there on the group. Yeah, total revenue would increase. Right? Now, don't ask me how did this happen. I logically explain this, how it happens. Right? So this is your answer. Price decrease leading to an increase in total revenue. That is how you have to figure out. That is how they give you questions. Now, in this question, are they ever telling you to, use the knowledge, use PED and total revenue? No, they're just saying this is happening, supply is increasing. What is happening to total revenue? How can you figure that out? Using your knowledge in this, right? So answer number 1. Okay, yes, we'll do this paper and finish it off, right? I think we have 2 more questions. 2 more. Yeah, 2 more and then I'll finish class off. I wish to go late than 7, but most of you all have classes until 7, right? I remember most of you all said there is a business studies class, so I'll stop by 7, but yes. Okay, question number 13. The graph above shows the market for good X. If the government imposes a specific tax on tax on each unit of X, which of the following represents consumer surplus, producer surplus, deadweight loss after the imposition of tax? Easy question. If you know your diagram, you can get this answer right. So you have your demand and supply curve. All of a sudden, So you have your demand, you have your supply. Now they are saying there is a tax that has been imposed. When there is a tax, what happens? Supply curve shifts to the left. So when the supply curve shifts to the left, which part becomes consumer surplus? This area is consumer surplus, what I highlighted in gray, right? What is producer surplus? This part that I'm highlighting in yellow, this part. So what is the deadweight loss? The deadweight loss is this small area, this D and E, right? So according to that, consumer surplus will be A, producer surplus will be H, deadweight loss will be D and E. So number 2 is my voice getting cracked? I'm getting this, connection unstable message a lot today. I don't know. I think because of the weather. Usually I don't get that message. Yeah, I upgraded from a normal SLT to SLT fiber also because of this issue. But I'm hoping manageable, right? But I think it's because of the internet issue only. But in case you all miss a lot, a huge part because of my internet issues, just let me know. That is why I have my video off as well, and my sisters are also having some seminar, I think. So they are on the call listening to something. They are also on Zoom, so maybe those are the reasons, but just try to bear with me. Okay, fine. Then we'll move on to the next question, the final one for today. Okay, question number 14, final one for today. So the diagram below represents a market for an agricultural product, right? That is supply and demand. Okay, they've given, they say the government sets a minimum price. Remember I said minimum price, right? Assuming that it buys up all the surplus stocks at the minimum price, the farmer's total revenue, what would it be? Now it's a very interesting area, and I'll just take a minute to explain what happens here. Now, what actually happens here is when the government comes and sets this minimum price, equilibrium price according to this is only P1. The government comes and set the price at P2. Let's say the farmers, they were not getting enough. So the government came and set the price at P2. But if you look at this diagram very carefully, when there is a minimum price that has been imposed, at the price of P2, if you connect to the demand curve, what the consumers are only willing to buy Q1, only that quantity. They are only willing to buy Q1. So, but at the price of P2, the suppliers or the producers are willing to supply Q3. And you see, if you connect the P2 to the demand curve, you get Q1. If you connect it to the supply curve, you get Q3. So there is a situation of what? Excess supply. Now there is a problem. Now, if the supplier comes and supplies Q3, consumers will only buy Q1 at that price. So this entire portion, right? This entire portion that is over here, right, will be unsold. No one will buy, right? So the producer will face a huge loss. Government comes, sets the price at P2. So at P2, supplier is happy. He is willing to supply a quantity of Q3, but the consumer is only willing to buy a quantity of Q1. So if the supplier comes and supplies Q3, he will face a loss. So therefore, what the government does is, government comes and sets the minimum price, plus government buys the excess supply also. This is a way of solving this. This is called a price support system, right? Government purchasing the excess supply. So government comes, okay, they say, okay, P2, they say producer, okay, you sell at P2. We understand the consumers will only buy Q1. So the difference between Q3 and Q1, we will buy it. The surplus, we will buy, and maybe they will export it, or government will store and keep and put it out later, or they can do something. So the government will buy that. So that is what has happened here. They are saying the government sets a minimum price of OP2, assuming that it buys up all the surplus stock. So that surplus is only what I have highlighted in orange. This orange thing is the surplus stock. Why? At P2, consumers are only willing to buy Q1. This difference is the surplus. Government buys that surplus. So then they're asking, what is the farmer's total revenue? So total revenue is the farmers are getting this orange thing by selling it to the government. They're selling this orange portion, the surplus, to the government and getting money. Also, they are sell they are selling this portion. No, they are selling this portion to the customers and getting money, to the consumers. At price P2, consumers are buying this pink triangle, pink rectangle. Government is buying this orange rectangle. So the farmer's total revenue is this pink rectangle plus the orange rectangle, not just the orange. Right? A lot of students made that mistake. I remember back in the day when I did this question once. So which of these represents this whole thing? Right? Which of these represents the whole thing? It is number 1. Answer number 1 is yes. I think yes, my voice was a bit cracky. So just to re-explain that small part again, right? The government is buying this orange quantity, right, at price P2, the excess supply, and also the consumers are buying this pink quantity, the one I have highlighted in pink, at price P2. Consumers are going to buy Q1. So that is bought by the consumers. This orange is bought by the government. So what is the farmer's total revenue? He is selling to the consumer and also he is selling to the producer. So another producer, to the government. So this pink rectangle plus this orange rectangle is the total farmer's revenue, right? So therefore the total revenue is O P2 K Q3, this entire rectangle, right? I'm hoping that part is fine. So that's it with this. Guys, there was one request from a few students. I'll just explain this now. Okay, so that's it with my teaching for today, right? So anyone interested, let's say anyone lost and want to join, let's say a theory or revision class, I'll give you a solution, right? I'm not saying that you all should join, but I'm giving you a solution how to catch up every single unit, right? This is what I'm doing, right? Because there were a few requests asking how to catch it up from the very beginning, right? Listen to this very carefully. What I'm doing right now, right, with the 2021, that is your batch, right? How can you all catch up all the units if you all want to? 2021 A level, right? I'm doing a revision class. Now this revision class, I did not do a 2021 theory class for the students. So the revision class also, I'm teaching it like a theory class. I'm doing every single thing without skipping anything. Okay. So 2021 A level revision, I'm starting unit 5 national income accounting on the 5th of December. That is this Saturday, right? So now this is not free. The past paper is only free, right? If you all want to join that, you all have to pay 1,800 monthly fee. Once you all pay the 1,800 monthly fee, we send all the tudes. We also give you the recordings. We add you to a Google Classroom. So all the recordings of every class is there. So even if you miss a class, right, the recording will be there until you go for A levels. You can keep on watching this recording over and over again and cover that up, right? That is that. Then also in the 2022 theory class, right, I'm going to start, right, unit number 3. Unit number 3, I'll be starting not this Thursday, next Thursday. That is not tomorrow. So tomorrow is when? Tomorrow is the 3rd. So not the 3rd. I'm starting on the 10th of December. So what I do is, right, usually I don't do this, but for the 2021 students, if you join this, right, if you join this 21 theory, you can 21 revision, you can come for this 2022 theory class for free. You can, come online. We will add you to the group. You can join and you can cover. So I'm starting unit number 3, So in this class, you can cover unit 3 and 4. 3 and 4, you can come for free and cover. But if you want the tute for this unit, right, if you want the tute for this unit, you have to let us know per tute, right? We will only charge the printing cost, that is 200 rupees. We'll charge the printing cost if you want the tute. Tute is optional, but for free you can come and listen to the class, learn what you want. For this also you will get the recordings. So unit 5 onwards you will cover in the revision class. Unit 3 and 4 you will cover in the 2022 theory class. Then unit 1 and 2, what can you do? Unit 1 and 2, right? Now this thing is over in all the classes. If you want to cover unit 1 and 2, the only option is to get the recording and the tunes. So per unit, right, per unit we charge 1,800. We don't give it for free because other students paid and came and learn these units. So we don't give it for free because it's not fair for the other students, right? So what happens is that recording and the tunes you can get there. So 1,800. If you want both 1 and 2, you have to pay 3,600. We'll give you all unit 1 recordings, all unit 2 recordings, and the what and the tunes also courier to your doorstep. That is how, if you want, you can cover. I'm not saying any, because I'm just telling you all because some people ask to, right? So that's the only way I can tell you all how you can cover all the units, right? So that is that. Okay, come only for unit 4 without revision. If you're not coming for the unit, not coming for the revision, I don't think you can come for the unit. You have to at least pay some amount and come. We don't really give that for free because we give it for free. Usually we don't even give the theory class for free for revision students, but now I understand because schools have not taught, you all have missed a lot of units, and because of all of that, I've decided to give this for free because other students actually pay and come. It's actually not fair on their side, right? So but I'll do that. That is the way you can cover if you want to. First, revision. Okay, times revision. This is okay. So what times are you looking at? This is on Saturday, right? Yes, you can pay 1,800 and come, no issue. So this is on Saturday, right? 21 revision is on Saturday, 7 to 9:30 p.m. Not 9 p.m. It's 9:30 p.m. Right? 9:30 p.m. When is this class? Right? So time is, don't make the time a big issue, because why you can do this now? The recording is always there. Right? So don't worry about that. This class is on Thursday, right? Thursday, 6 to 8 usually, 6 to 8 p.m. or in other words 7 to 9 p.m. Guys, yes guys, if any guys only who are interested, you all can stay. Others guys, thank you for coming. I'll see you all probably next Wednesday. If there's extra classes, I'll let you all know. Okay, anyway, just for those who are ask me questions, you all can stay and you all can clarify. Okay, see you guys, bye. We'll have another class. Have a good day. Okay, so this part, and then I'm just telling you, okay, that is the timings, guys. So if you all want to join or lost or anything, just drop me a text after the class. We'll try to figure that out. So now the class is officially over, right? I'll end the recording. Thank you for coming. I'll see you all the next class, right? Google Classroom recordings, you all would get. Revision class students will get this recording. Others no. Yes.